Okay, so let me bring up my slides and get started with the introduction. I want to come on, share screen. It'll be this screen, share, and then go up here. And where is the present button? Slideshow. Play from start. Okay, so as you know, this is a class about WinLink. WinLink is email for hams, and we'll be going into some detail as to why that's a good thing and what uses we can make of it. Why WinLink for Aries? Well, messages by voice are slow. They're error prone. If you've ever done a message passing, ooh, I went the wrong way there. Come on. And they take complex specialized skills, special vocabulary, pro words, and so forth. And again, it's error prone. It's limited to text. Messages by email, on the other hand, I'm going to start from the second bullet. They're clear and unambiguous. They're written. Everybody knows how to do email, although not necessarily. This thing keeps moving on me. And something that isn't quite so obvious is that it makes better use of the available radio bandwidth. To actually send an email by WinLink, it's very brief. To send the same thing by voice would probably take at least 100 times as much time, maybe 1,000 or even more. So that's in a crowded band situation, it's a good thing to have. And you can transmit photos and videos and sound and so forth. So you can give more information in a usable form. So what are we going to be doing in this class? The next, tonight, we're going to be learning about setting up the WinLink Express client on your system and what it is, familiarizing yourself with it and how to use it, and using ordinary internet to send and receive messages. This seems a little strange because the whole point of this is that we can do email on ham radios rather than the ordinary internet. But this is sort of the front half of the whole process, and we'll get this down, and then we'll add the radios in a subsequent class. So that's what's coming up tonight. Subsequent classes will be involved with, as I say, connecting WinLink to your radio. Also, I don't have it on this slide, but we have several people who have volunteered to be Elmers, and I have made a preliminary assignment of students to Elmers. I'll be emailing that out to everybody in the course so that you can get in touch with your Elmer and get answers to questions. You don't have to take it as, ironclad. If you'd rather work with a different Elmer, please do so. I did this assignment so that we wouldn't get a pileup on the first Elmer on the list. Other than that, Elmers are also free to refer people to other people who they think might have more expertise in a given area. So that's pretty much it for me. And now it's over to Roberta, who is going to get us going with the actual substance of the course.
Actually, I think Sebastian's up, right? Sebastian.
Oh, is it Sebastian?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
We're easily confused. That's all good.
I better mute myself before I say anything else stupid.
All right. So we are talking about WinLink, and let me see if I get to see you guys somehow. Make this a little larger. So we're going to talk about WinLink, and when we use WinLink, there is a big problem with that because WinLink isn't one thing, but we are using WinLink for the network that's in place to facilitate this sending of email messages through ham radio, as well as for the software that we're using for it. So WinLink, if you just say WinLink, that's generally this network of stations that provide radio pathways for your email messages to travel on. And you can use that with your emails, with attachments, as Bill said, so you're not limited to just text messages. You can use it for position reports. There is content services available that actually send you content upon request. An example for that is a weather report, for example, that you can request. And then there's WinLink Express, and that is the quasi-standard client that is built for WinLink, the network, and it has every single feature built into it that the WinLink network supports. That is a little like iTunes. It's kind of a monster. It has all different features that you could possibly imagine built into it. And that makes it sometimes a little bit clunky to use, but it has everything that you could possibly need. There are alternatives, and I want to mention those. So there's a software called Outpost, that's also Windows. There is WOAD, the word that rhymes with toad, mode for Android. So if you have an Android tablet, you want to use that, you can. There's PAT, that's a client that has a web interface, so you can run it. You can run a server component of it, and you can access it in your browser, so you don't even have to be on the same machine to access it. And you can use PAT on your Mac or Linux. There's PackLink that does something similar, but you can use your regular Outlook against PackLink. So there's a bunch of different softwares that you can play with that allow you to access the WinLink network. But the problem with those is they only support a subset of the capabilities. So if you want to try it all out and have a standardized experience, that's why we're using WinLink Express for the class. So just keep that in mind. And now I want to talk a little bit about this WinLink network of amateur radio stations and how this all interconnects. So you need to bear with me here for a moment, because we're going to introduce 3 different words. One is a client, and that's effectively you. So it's a computer running the WinLink Express software, and that software is the one that is custom created, bespoke for emergency radio operations. And it actually is supported on Windows only, so you need to be aware of that. So if you say client or packet station, that's literally a person out in the field with a Windows laptop running WinLink Express and a radio attached to it. How to set that up? Subject of the later classes. Then we have a system called an RMS or a gateway. That's a relay message server. And its only job is it to receive your radio connection and connect to a CMS system that keeps your email. And this is going to get a little bit more clear in a second. But these are systems that you find on the WinLink map, on the WinLink website, that are spread all over the world that you can actually connect to. And I want to show you just briefly how that looks like and how you can find them. Just pull over my browser. So this is winlink.org. And if you click the tools button, you end up on this beautiful website. And you can drill into here and you can look at available RMS locations. You can actually look at how you can reach them. So if you want to find out who you can reach with a regular packet connection, you can filter accordingly, you can dial in, find Santa Cruz, and you can find K6BJ, for example, is an RMS station that you can connect to. So much for that. The CMS is where all your emails are stored. So you're connecting to an RMS and that relays the message to a CMS, and that is where that information is kept. I think right now this is run redundantly on Amazon, and it works quite well. So let's talk about how this actually sets up in a network and what the different operating modes of these 3 different components are. So the first one on the far left on the slide is the conventional mode. That is the preferred mode. When somebody says they're doing WinLink, that's probably what they're doing. So you're the client and you're connecting via radio to an RMS which relays your email via the internet to the CMS server. And somebody else who wants to get the email connects via radio to the same or a different RMS, and that pulls the email from the CMS server. This does require that the location where your RMS is running has an internet connection, because it reaches that CMS via the internet. Availability of this is really, really well working, because you actually have not only one RMS that can go down, but there are a lot, as you've seen on the map. So just pick a different RMS. If a local internet outage, you can actually reach an RMS further away. On VHF, of course, you're within your regular radio range. If you use HF to reach it, you can be far, far away. So local internet outages, not a problem. Of course, there is a system that actually works even more robustly. Let's assume that the entire internet goes away, or an entire region doesn't have internet for whatever reason. There is a radio-only mode for disaster preparedness, where different RMS stations are connected via HF radio. So that system works by you connecting as your client to an RMS. The RMS receives your message and relays it to another RMS via radio. This is called the hybrid model. And it actually uses the HF radio connection on RMS level if there is no internet available to reach the CMS. Of course, it cannot send this email to every single RMS, so you actually have to maintain your favorite RMS where you will pick up your emails later. So there's a bunch of information that's maintained. And of course, not every RMS is part of this network. So there's a bunch of things that you need to consider if you do that, but the system is able to operate without any internet connection whatsoever and still have a really wide range. Now, the third operating option is much more local, and that's where you create a peer-to-peer connection like you would in simplex mode. So you have to agree that you will be sending an email to Roberta on Friday at 9 o'clock on this frequency, and Roberta sets everything up and is waiting for you to come online and send her that email. That's the peer-to-peer mode that you see on the far right. So there's a very direct connection, and you really just do a modem point-to-point connection at that point without the email being stored anywhere else than first on your machine and then on Roberta's. And the setup that we are using today is this one, where you have a client without a radio that connects via the internet straight to the CMS that stores the message, and then a different client will connect directly via the internet to the CMS and obtain that message. And you can use that to verify that you have a working WinLink account. You can use it to familiarize yourself with WinLink and experiment with it. You can also use it to really pull down your messages on a daily basis, because setting up radio and waiting for all the messages to come in takes quite a while. Internet is much, much faster. So you can use that. You can actually watch people doing this, and I want to show you that. It's really cool. So you can go back to that map that you've seen before. And in here, you can go to this connection map that checks for these real-time telnet connections. And if you watch the map carefully, you see that there are these little blue dots popping up on the map in particular locations. And we can zoom into this. And you can see messages coming in, and I'll leave this open. So later we can probably see the connection when we do our demo. But let's briefly talk about what's going to happen. So we're going to see a telnet session that's open. A WinLink program open, that's WinLink Express. And from there, we will open a telnet session. And we will use that telnet session to transmit our email via the internet. And on the CMS side, they will have a telnet listener that will actually pick up that message and put it into the WinLink CMS system. That's exactly the same place where your email would end up if you were using WinLink via radio. So all of that is pretty much a round trip. And to show you how this works, we're going over to Roberta to show this live in the system. I find out how to make you a host, Roberta. Or no, I can't. You are already a host.
I can't share my screen until yours.
Yeah, that's gone. Here you go.
One moment. All right. Whoops. See, Bill, you're not the only one. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Somebody see my screen. I will assume you can, or you'll break in and tell me no.
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 Negative,
No.
negative.
Not yet. Okay. See what happened. Okay, let me get back to Zoom. All right, what do you see right now? Do you see all of us? Or
Yep, nothing's changed.
Flying pig.
share screen? All right. Now do we have something?
Now we see.
Affirmative. There we
Great.
go.
Okay, that's better. Let me get people out of the way here so I can see. Okay, so as you heard, I'm Roberta, and I feel like I'm your facilitator to learning tonight. I do not know WinLink on back of my hand, you know, like the back of my hand. So we're going to start with Telnet. No radio needed. We're going to set up and create an account in WinLink, and we're going to set up for the Telnet, send a message in Telnet using the message passing form, the ICS 213. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do, and by the way, we will be sending you out these PowerPoints so that you can have this to refer to when you're actually doing it yourself, unless you want to try and do it while you're watching the Zoom. I don't know how that would work. So first thing you're going to do is go to the winlink.org website, and then you're going to click on My Account on the menu tab, and that's going to allow you to register with WinLink. And you have to register first before you can use the WinLink software. So how to get the account? You're going to first download the WinLink Express software. And you'll see it there where the red arrow is. And you're going to scroll all the way down over the second page down to the bottom where it says download. And then you see first red arrow on the left says download WinLink Express current production version. And then that's going to go to my downloads folder, which is down here in the bottom left. And then I'm going to open it. Okay, when I double click on it to open it. Now you'll probably have to do, you know, your WinZip program, whatever you use for that to unzip it. Then now I want to open it, I want to install it. So I'm in my downloads folder, which is where I stored it originally. And I'm going to click on the install and open as indicated on by the red arrows. Okay, so notice it says RMS Express. It's going to install WinLink Express into the folder called RMS Express. RMS Express is the old name for WinLink Express, and it gets confusing sometimes. I think they just haven't changed the name of the folder. But you're just going to follow all the next buttons and let it install on your computer. So you're going to allow it to create a desktop shortcut because you need that in order to access it easily from your computer. And the destination location there is indicated. You will click on install and you wait, just like every other program you download, and it will install it on your the computer. Okay, so then once you have it done, it says, yeah, you did it. So then you want to launch it and get yourself registered. So you're going to hit finish. And don't worry, these are the red boxes are the only things you need to complete in order to get yourself registered. Now, the first thing you'll see at the top is your call sign, and you pick a password. And then you go to your email and put your email in there, the second box. Go down and put your grid square in. And if you don't know your grid square, you can look yourself up on QRZ, or there are many ways to find your grid square. Now, the fourth, the WinLink Express registration box is not circled because you don't have to fill that in. If you do choose to pay for a registration, that's where the number goes. But you can use everything that we need to do without registering. I blocked mine out, so you guys wouldn't steal my registration. Now, look over here on the right. There's a box that says display list of pending incoming messages prior to download. Many people found out over the holidays why this is important. I managed to send a Christmas card that was too large to some people in WinLink and clogged up some folks' WinLink. So if you could see the size of that file before allowing it to download, then you can say, nope, I don't want to do that now. I want to do it on Telnet, or I want to do it when I have a faster connection. So I did not know about that box when we did the Fireworks 50. And so I got hit with a bunch of emails coming at me from Sebastian. And that's when he educated me on how to be able to manage those downloads, okay? All right, so then you're gonna click on the update and complete your registration. Now, I'm not positive, but Sebastian, if you could unmute for a moment. I'm pretty sure that you have to wait for them to send you an email to come back to allow you then to go onto this screen. Is that correct, Sebastian? I don't think it happens instantly because they have to check your call sign.
There is a bit of a process, I think, if you sign up via the internet connection. I think if you actually sign up via radio, it is instant because they assume that at that point you know what you're doing and you are actually legit.
Okay, anyway, it's been a long time. It's been a couple of years since I actually signed up, so I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure you'll get an email and then you follow the email trail. So once you do get on there, you will have the opening screen for WinLink Express. Once you're registered, you have your call sign and all of that. So we can see here, the upper part, there's my call sign. And these are our system folders where we have our inbox and we have the red items and outbox and all of that. And down below, you see contacts. Whenever you send an email out, the name goes into your contacts box so you can easily access it later. Okay, so I'm gonna stop. Let's see, I'm gonna go ahead like this and click to exit. And now we're going to do, let's see. Am I still screen sharing? No. Okay, before we do our demo, do I have any questions? Because there was a lot of info there and we have lots more to tell you, of course, but yeah, I don't want to cut anyone off if you have a question. Dawn, I saw you light up. Question? No. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to our demo then.
And Anne has a question.
Oh, I can't see hands for some reason. Was that Dan?
Anne.
Anne. Oh, hi, Anne.
Hi. So I'm coming in using a Mac. So I was going to download Pat. Has anyone used Pat in the group?
So we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
All right. Right now, we're only supporting Windows in this demo. Okay. And then those of you who have Macs can work with your Elmers, and there are Elmers that know how to do Mac and how to use whatever that app, whatever it is. Bill, did you have something?
I was just going to comment that there are at least two ways that I know of using your Mac with WinLink. I run WinLink on a Mac, and Lisa Shallop has offered to talk about a different way of doing it, so you don't have to think about going out and buying another computer unless you really feel like it.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to return to the WinLink. And you all can see my screen now. Okay, so you'll see over on the left is KN6DDW. That's my husband's call sign. He doesn't use WinLink, but I can click on that drop box and you can see I have access to 3 different call signs. Of course, his call sign is him. He's given me permission to use it. That's my call sign. If you click on my call sign, you see a whole lot more stuff come up than on his. And then there is the city EOC as well that I'm following during COVID to download the messages for them. So for tonight, we're going to go to my husband's call sign because it's much simpler and it looks more like what you would see when you first open WinLink. You see settings here. And this is where that setup was that we looked at. And then you see those boxes that we talked about. You see, he doesn't have very many contacts because I only just played with this last week. So for some reason, I'm sorry, can someone tell me how to move the menu down out of the way of my menu, the Zoom stuff? How do I minimize that? Sebastian?
Oh, that view options thing that's up there.
No, I just got mute, stop video. It's right on top of my screen.
Yeah.
Oh, there. Put it down at the bottom. Okay. Thank you everyone for your patience. Okay, now we see message here, and that's what we're going to use to actually create our message. That's one way of doing it. And over here, we see some little icons. This one would give us the option to create a message. Why is it not? Oh, there we go. New message. So it's the same thing. It's just an icon. And this is the reply to all, acknowledge receipt, and you get the idea. These are sort of basic little icons to do things. The others we're not going to talk about right now. The folders here, this is an area where you can save things like a message. If you want to make a message, but you want to save it and send it out later, you could put it in a drafts folder, just so you have an idea what that's about. And I'll talk about this open session later. So first, we're going to send a message. I'm going to click message and new message, just because that's how I do it. And of course, you can also do it from this other button. Okay, well, we want to send an ICS 213 form, and that's not here. What we see here is a plain text form, which is very handy and quick to send. But if we want to do an ICS 213, we're going to use the template for that. So I'm going to click on select template. Then I'm going to go to the standard templates, click on that, and drill down to the ICS USA forms. And eventually I get to the 213. Now, there is, of course, a much easier way. Once you get to know WinLink, you can save these various templates that you use a lot and save them in your favorites, and then you don't have to go through so many clicks. But for tonight, I want to just show you what it is to do it from the beginning. Okay, so here's our ICS 213 made for WinLink. We're going to have an incident name. I'm gonna go ahead and use my drop downs here and cheat. It does save things, as you go along and do more and more, you have more options to automatically use, so you don't have to type. I'm going to send my email to Sebastian. I will put his name. Like that, digital expert. I must have said that before. Oh, that is his position. Okay, there we go. from Roberta, what am I? Radio operator. How's that? The subject is WinLink class message. Now, you can just click here and it'll automatically fill in the date for you. And you can click the time, or you can override it if you want to change it to a future time when you know you're going to be doing it or whatever. Our message, we're just going to type in our message. And then I'm going to prove it. I am a radio operator. Now, this is important. I just want to show you a couple of things. We're not going to save this. But if this was like a net that I was in all the time and I did this ICS 213 for a WinLink net, I could save this data. And then I just come in and change my date and time and maybe my message, and it saves everything else. So it saves you a lot of time. We're not going to do that tonight. Just wanted you to know what that was. We're going to hit submit. I think if I hit reset, it cancels everything else. We're not going to do that. I'm going to hit submit and watch carefully because there's a couple of different steps. It doesn't just automatically send the email. So we submit. Now you have a message. To complete it, you want to click OK and close the open browser window. Then you'll get to the message window where you can post your message to the outbox. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to close this. And now we see we have this box here that looks like our old plain text. And we still have to put in the call sign of who we're sending it to. So his call is KK6FFB. And I'm going to send a copy to AJ6CQ to Bill.
Roberta, that's not me.
Whoops, FBF, sorry. I did that once before and it came back wrong. Sorry. Am I right now? FBF. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm firing up WinLink as well to receive this.
Okay, so now that I've done that, you see it says here, send as a WinLink message. That's what we wanted to say. And it's going to come from Mark, not from me. So I'm going to post it to the outbox. That's the critical step. If you've missed that, it goes nowhere. You've lost it. Post to outbox. All right. Now I want to send the message from my outbox. You see, I have one message in my outbox, and I'm going to go over to this open session. Now, there are many different modes of WinLink, right? All these different modes Sebastian touched on. And where's Telnet? We can't see it. It's all the way at the top, and it often is hard to find. So just know that you have to scroll all the way up to get to Telnet. So now we're set up for Telnet WinLink. Now that we've got that, I'm going to click on Open Session. And you see this new window open here. I click on Start, and don't blink because it's going to go really fast. Connected to a CMS. Oh boy, I have some messages. Now, this is where we can choose. Do I want to download these messages now, or do I want to wait? If I wanted to wait, I would say deselect all messages and then say download, because there would be nothing. I'm going to go ahead and download them. So I'm going to click on the download. These are probably from last week when we practiced. And now you can see lots of things. It shows that one message was sent, 2 were received, and that were disconnected. It's really important to wait until you get that disconnected notice before you close the screen. Actually, it won't close. It won't let you. And this FQ is really important to look for too. Unfortunately, I don't know what it means, but I know that if you don't get it, it probably didn't go through, and you won't have one message showing in your sent box. So I'm going to close this, and now you see that I have 2 messages here. Okay, so I'm going to unshare my screen, and basically we've accomplished our goal there, and I'm going to let Sebastian reply, and he can take it from here. as to what he received and reply to me. Sebastian, you're still muted.
I've also received your message.
Thank you, Bill.
Um,
Sebastian, you're muted. Don't we love Zoom?
Now it's here. I think it was just
Yeah.
hiding. All right,
Okay.
you should be seeing my win link. Is that correct? Perfect. So I'm doing exactly the reverse part of what Roberta just did. So I click on open session and it already opened this Telnet WinLink session. I hit start and it again connects to a CMS. It finds out that there's messages waiting and I select all messages and I download the checked messages. Oh, that was fast. It even opened it and must have clicked somewhere. You can, no, that's not the right one. So let me see, close this. And we can see, Roberta, what is your message? Is that you?
I can't see it. Your screen is kind of small for my laptop. I can't read it.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's mine. That's
Yeah.
mine.
So, so you can find the message and you can click on either opening. So you can see the body of the message down here, the text. If you click on this, you actually get to see the message in the browser. And if you hit reply, it opens a form that you can actually respond to. So down here in the message, I say, trying really hard. And I'm replying with today's time and date. And I say submit. And it closes, I can close the browser. And now is the part where you need to find the message, which is sitting somewhere on one of my many screens here. Give me 1 second, I can't see it right now, it's hiding. Damn! This worked so well in the rehearsal. Way too many windows. There it is. It's hiding behind the Zoom window. All right, so you can see that this is the message that we created. There's the message from Roberta, the reply, and then again, I say post to outbox, and it does nothing with the message. It does not send it out. It just queues it for later sending. So I can take all my messages, sit somewhere warm and nice, actually work on my replies, and then go back out into the cold to my radio station, and then hit open session and send it out. In this case, hitting open session, up comes again that Telnet session. You actually have the ability to turn on an automatic sending and all that, but that's all for different times. Right now, we just do it manually. We hit start, we're connecting to the CMS, and now Roberta should have received the message.
Okay, I probably did, but we could do a great loop of this back and forth, lots of messages. I do want to mention two things that were not in my presentation. One is that WinLink is not private. There is no expectation of privacy. You want to pretend like you're on the radio. Anybody can read your messages. And I spent a little time today trying to remember how to do that because about 2 years ago, I figured it out and now I forgot. And WinLink is enormous, as Sebastian said, but people can go in and read your messages. So do not put anything that you don't want the world to know in your message. And the second thing is that there is a prohibition of any personal or commercial business allowed. This is for emergency and training and that sort of thing. So no commercial activity. And that's all I have. Back to you, Sebastian.
Thank you. When we're talking about the encryption part, that also applies if you're encrypting your own messages. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to use PGP and then I'm going to just dump this in there, that would actually be illegal. And the FCC actually issued a ruling just a couple of weeks ago again to reaffirm that that is also true in emergency communication cases. There is under no circumstances are you allowed to send encrypted messages via ham radio. Technically, if you use the connection via Telnet and you know that the other person pulling the email will also use Telnet, you'll be actually fine using WinLink for encrypted messages, but you cannot know that because you don't know what the recipient does. You don't want them get them in trouble, so better don't do it. Yeah, that's that. But now let's talk a little bit about how this all relates to ham radio. And why the heck you're in a ham radio class and we just use the internet to send an email. Could have done that in Outlook much faster. So we are talking about this conventional mode and how to actually get one of those messages out. And if we do that, and I just want to touch on this briefly because we're going to go into this in more detail in the next session. I want to talk briefly about what you need and why that's important. So if you're talking about the conventional mode, we're talking about your client being connected to your radio and then sending that message to an RMS that talks to the CMS. So we now know the client works, the CMS works, now we need to get the RMS in the middle. That is done via radio. And to do that, we're using WinLink that opens a packet radio session. So that is basically modem conversations that are sent through sound modem, a software piece, to this little box that turns it into a audio signal that then controls your radio that sends out your email. And we're going to talk about this in much more detail, but there's one little thing that makes this entire topic a little bit confusing. And that is basically our shopping list. So let me take you here. So you need a machine that runs Windows or a dual boot system. And I already see there's a bunch of people asking in the chat how they get a dual boot system up and running. So we'll talk about that in a minute. You need SignalLink. That is a little device that has a set of jumper wires in there. That's those beautiful red wires that you see in there. You can either jumper it manually like I did here, or you can buy a pre-made module, and we'll walk you through that in just a second. And you need, of course, a radio that you can connect to the SignalLink device. And that can really be most radios. I haven't seen one that does not work one way or the other with SignalLink. And let's talk a little bit about that shopping list. So to order a SignalLink device, which is about $130, you would do that off the Tigertronic website. And I happen to have that website available. I thought, sorry, bunch of different pages, but not their start page. So that's this beautifully designed web page that looks about as old as WinLink from the user experience. And the important part in here is to find out what jumper settings or modules you need for your radio. So there's two ways to do that. One is you can look into the product guide, and here you can just search for your radio. So I have an FT60, for example, and you can find out that to run SignalLink, you need to have the device that comes with this part number. So SL SignalLink USB HTY, and you need the jumper module SL MODHT. And that's the two things that you need to buy to make this work, or you manually jumper wire it, which is a little bit more tricky, but at least in the third attempt, after nothing works, you'll probably figure it out. It's not difficult to do. It's just much easier if you use the jumper module. If you're interested in the wiring, there's a website here. You can go where they talk about all the different the different wiring combinations, and they have different notes about the respective devices. So you can find out what radio needs what module and what cable for it. And that is basically the shopping list. But of course, we highly recommend you check with your assigned Elmer before you do it, because it just helps to have a second pair of eyes looking at that. And there's one little remark that I have is if you do this, make sure you buy a new device. So sometimes you see them cheap on eBay or something like that. The problem is the older Signal-Link devices do not work with the new modes. So if you have an older Signal-Link device that still uses not surface mount, but through-hole components, for example, in there, they are not compatible, for example, with the VARA mode. So just keep that in mind. There's also notes on that on the Signal-Link website, but it's a bit difficult to spot from the outside, so your eBay picture will not do you any good. With that, Bill, you have a question before I pass it on to you anyhow. Can you unmute and repeat the question?
It's not. Okay. Now I'm unmuted. So I just had a comment on that product sheet. You will see the Signal-Link unit, and in the middle there's a thing for the cable, and then on the right there's a thing for the module, jumper module. The cable is included with the Signal-Link item on the second column. So for example, you see SLUSB HTY, that includes the SL cab HTY that you see next to it. So you don't go ordering the cable extra unless you want to have a spare.
Actually, or if you want to use your Signal-Link device with multiple radios.
Well, then you might need a different cable and a different jumper.
Yes. There's a question in the chat. Nana is asking, I have an HT and 2 mobile radios. Which one should I get Signal-Link for?
I could kind of answer that. If let's say you really like one of them for voice, and you don't care too much for the other one, if you can check on the Tigertronics to make sure they both work for WinLink Express, or with the with the USB there, then you can go either way. But if you prefer one HT over the other, then I would go with the other one for voice, and then you can relegate the other one for digital.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
You will possibly have better luck getting further with your mobile. I don't know if that's true or not, but I found that to be true than the HT. So I did just get the HT FT60 hooked up, and some of the places that I can reach with my base station on WinLink and Packet, I can't hit them with my HT with 5 watts. So it depends on what you want to do, and if you just want to play with it or whatever, it's a great start. So Bill has his hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that. The actual Signal-Link unit that you get, the only difference between all those units in the left-hand column is the cable that it comes with, as near as I can tell. Maybe Sebastian knows something better. But if I see SLUSB HTY for the FT1DR, and just above that, the SLUSB 8R, the only difference is the cabling. So it comes with the basic unit and the cable that fits your radio. And then, of course, the jumper modules are different for different radios. So the big expense is the Signal-Link itself. The cables and the jumpers are not exactly free, but they're not nearly as expensive as the Signal-Link itself.
It even comes with an Allen key.
Yes, because you have to open the thing up to put the jumpers in, whether you use the module or jumper wires.
But I think we've reached the Elmering part, right? So
Can I say one more thing about the Allen wrench? I watched Stefan's video today. On our website, there are some videos that Stefan made quite a while ago that use the FT60. And I really appreciated that he had duct taped his Allen wrench down onto his signal link so he didn't lose it. I'm going to go do that because I like that idea. So go ahead, Sebastian, or whoever's next.
Bill is. And he's muted.
Okay, so I don't have much left. Let me work on this a little bit. And let's see. I had just a couple things for the end. One is the Elmering that I talked about a little bit at the beginning. We have a list of Elmers and a list of students, and I just took the two and put the students down one side and the Elmers repeated over and over down the other side. So that's the pairing. It's pretty random. Feel free to pick a different Elmer if you want to, or whatever. And then let's talk about the next class. Next week, there will be no class because it would conflict with a different class that's happening in the same time. So we'll be coming back on March 14th for Q&A, for helping with any problems that have come up in the meantime. Your homework assignment is to get WinLink Express running and send and receive email via Telnet. If you don't have somebody to do that in conjunction with, you can use your ordinary email, send WinLink email to your ordinary email and back, and so forth. So you can do this completely independently. Feel free to get in touch with your Elmer. I'll be sending out the Elmering list by email. We'll be sending out the slides as well by email. And I see Bob has his hand up.
I do too.
And so does Roberta. Bob, I think you were first.
Okay, and just to let the Elmers know as well that not only do I use the signal link, but also I have a KPC3, Cantronics KPC3 that I have all set up as well. So if anybody's wanting to use that terminal node controller, I have information for that as well.
Okay, and Roberta?
Yeah, when you said to send a message to yourself, I don't believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, that you can send a message back to yourself at WinLink. So AJ6KN at WinLink cannot send a message to AJ6KN at WinLink. So if I want to send it to my regular email, I have to put a prefix before it.
That's correct.
Okay, give me a minute. Everybody's so excited. I believe, and someone can tell me what it is, it's //WL, I don't remember what it is to go before, to precede a regular email. Stefan, you had it in your demo. Do you remember what it is?
I can't remember if it was forward or backward slash, but it was 2 slashes, WLK. I think it was a space and then your email address.
Mm.
I'm not sure that's correct. I think I've sent, I'm going to test it right now.
Well,
I have another
you can look at
computer sitting in
my,
front of me.
y'all can look at my video.
Yeah, but I'm
may
pretty
have
sure I've
changed.
done this.
They
All you
might
have to
have
do, all you have to do is the 2 forward slashes.
2 forward slash without the WLK?
That's correct. I know that's what you. I know that's what you had in your video, but you don't need that. You
What?
just need the 2 slashes.
I didn't get the memo.
I watched your video a lot.
Well, thanks, Vince.
Was that Don? Thank you, Don. So I just wanted to mention that because he said that.
Just to be sure, if you're sending it to an email address, just put in the email address. I mean, if you're just sending an email to your other email address, we invited you to this meeting, so you received our Zoom link, so you have an email address. So you just want to send an email there, just put in your email address, and that works.
Let's try it as an exercise. Yeah. With the slashes, not the slashes, with the WLK, all that stuff.
Oh, this is lovely. My MacBook doesn't want to boot.
Yeah, I put nothing in just now and it worked.
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
That's been my experience as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
Yeah.
an email
I'm
added
still-
with an @ and everything's
was-
fine.
Yeah,
I
I've
But
learned
if
this
never,
from, like,
if your
3 years
regular
ago.
email address is also your call sign, you may have some trouble. I don't know about that.
Well, that's new to me because 3 years ago it was like you had to do this prefix. Wow.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah, I know I've done it
Oh,
without a
John
prefix.
has a comment.
Yes, John's been waiting a long time. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
The prefix is / WL2K at the beginning of the subject. To send
Yeah.
to send it to non-WinLink people, non-WinLink addresses.
The subject tells it that, oh, okay, there, if there's a non-WinLink address, I can send it out. I think. Anyway, that's how I had to do it to get it out to my email.
It has to do with spam. That was what I understood. But anyway, I didn't mean to open up a can of worms, but that's what WinLink is, let me tell you.
If you're having problems with anything like that, the first resource is Google, and then the next resource is your Elmer. Google is faster if it has the answer.
I want to do a final comment if there's no other questions.
Go ahead.
Roberta and I work at and there's some others. Oh, Gary does too. We work at the EOC and we do WinLink there, both on VHF and HF, and reporting to the Cal OES. And we don't use the ICS 213; they have their own forms. But there have been times where I've had to go down and connect to an HF gateway down in Baja, down in Tijuana, so I can get my message out. So it is possible to get your message out, depending on where you can make your contacts, and if the area is affected, you can find ways to get out to some RMS somewhere else, some gateway somewhere else.
So for the question of which radio you should set up, it just seems to lead back to the typical thing about antennas. What antenna you've got will get to what areas. So your best antenna and your least good antenna type issue. Local area versus wider area. More power.
Can I address that for a minute, Bruce? So I have several different setups. We could have just our HT, right? Our FT60 with a whip on it and try to send WinLink with that. It may not get out. Next step might be a mobile antenna. Next step might be an antenna on a mast, or a base unit of some sort that's more powerful. But I've found that it doesn't take a whole lot of power to get out, but it does take a good antenna. And so you're right about that stuff.
That's something you'll have to, in your location, try to see what gateway you can connect to. I could not for the longest time connect to K6BJ-10, but I could connect to KE6AFE-10 because there were no eucalyptus trees. It was a slope. There was a hill that there was no trees, but I can visually see that my radio signal can get up to Loma Prieta, unobstructed, so to speak. It was a clear sky that way. So you just have to try it. And I've tried it with a Baofeng at not enough power, 4 watts. FT60, 5 watts with a J-pole, that works. But with 4 watts and a J-pole, didn't work with the
Well,
Baofeng.
if you're using a different radio, you have to put a different jumper in, right?
Yes.
So
Yes, you do.
Swap out the jumper and the cable.
Yeah.
It may be a different jumper. It may be the same. There are only so many jumpers, and they're not all different for every radio. But you should check because it's very likely you'll need a different jumper.
Okay.
If it's an FT60, it'll require a jumper that has a resistor and a capacitor on it.
That one's probably easier to buy.
Yeah, it's easier to buy. You can make it. It's kind of like an antenna project. It's pretty easy to do. But you know, you'd have to go to like Santa Cruz Electronics or something to get the two parts you need. But yeah, easier to buy. Just plop it in and away you go. But you do have to. That's the other challenge is when you're swapping radios or if you're exercising different radios for digital, be careful about making sure you're swapping the jumpers. So
Thank you.
I just
So I
bought two
just,
signal links because I had an ICOM 2730A and I had an FT60, so I bought two signal links. But
yeah, you could do that. That way you
and-
don't worry about mixing and matching.
right, I really would like to have any telnet questions addressed tonight, because we're going to really get into radio after this. And Deborah has her hand up. Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, this is actually, it's not a telnet, this is very much a radio one, but since all the discussion about how much power in your antenna, is there some WinLink analog of pinging of if you're someplace and you don't have an actual message to send yet, but you want to test out whether you're able to reach one of the RMS stations, that there's some quick just go, bing, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes. So you don't have to make a message. You can open a session and test as long as you're hooked up to your radio and open a WinLink session and see if it doesn't go through and you get disconnected, you better try a different gateway.
Okay, good.
yeah. So comment, I just tried sending and receiving a message to and from my ordinary Google email from WinLink without any prefixes, without anything special in the subject line. It goes through just fine. If you have an older version of WinLink Express, there may be some requirements. I have 1.6.1.0. So whatever the requirement was in the past, it seems to have been removed in the more recent versions of WinLink Express.
Yeah, it came through on mine too. So.
So I was going to talk a little bit for the Mac people, if I can find since we have a little extra time. Yeah, there's a program called Crossover that I have not used that supposedly allows you to run Windows programs on a Mac. Lisa Shallop, who I think is not able to be here tonight, but who has volunteered to help with this, has done it successfully and has documented the process. And I have used WinLink with Boot Camp on a Mac, so I can walk people through that. Boot Camp means you basically have two computers and you have to reboot if you want to switch from Windows to Mac or vice versa. There's also a place called Technology Exchange on West Side Santa Cruz on Mission Street that has used computers that are pretty cheap. I think I've seen them for around $100, which might be roughly the cost of a Windows license if you're doing boot camp. And also, I don't know for certain, but I would guess that the really new Macs with the Apple chips are not going to be able to run Windows simply because they're no longer using the Intel processors. Do you know anything about that, Sebastian?
I do not.
But I would, yeah. I've worked at both Microsoft and Apple, and all my computers right now are Macs.
I do know a little bit about it just because we're having to look at this for work. So Parallels has a M1 available emulation software, but the version of Windows that you're going to be running is going to be the ARM version of Windows, which is not necessarily all that great. So the software has to be written for it, or it has to go through an abstraction layer, just like it has to do on the M1. So we've kind of held off on all that for now.
Yeah, I would suggest one of those cheap Windows laptops would be probably the simplest thing to do, unless you want to get involved in other things that are probably going to be just about as costly. I mean, Crossover has a price, and so does a Windows license for Boot Camp. John has his hand up, and also Deborah. John?
Yeah, Pat isn't actually that bad. I used it over the holidays to do the telnet setup, and the radio shouldn't be too much harder.
The problem with PET is the limitations. So for example, if you want to use VARA, that's currently a setup that, for example, isn't supported. So you'd be stuck with regular packet.
I agree. And I also am kind of concerned that VARA violates the FCC encryption. It's not an open product.
I see the concern.
Does it have to be an open product, or does it have to be decodable?
It's not, there is no specification for it.
But it's not secret because anybody can get a copy of VARA and read the message.
You can buy, no, the radio protocol is not available.
Without money?
Without money, yes. You can buy the product, and then you can listen to your radio, I suppose, and try and decode it from there.
They have a free version that just doesn't allow you to use the highest speeds.
Anyway, that's just my opinion about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a lawyer, so, and especially not one specializing in communication law, so I don't really know. I shouldn't be mouthing off about it. But
So I think Deborah's next.
yes.
Okay, I was going to, and Scott's comment in the chat may answer this. I was going to ask if anyone's used Wine rather than a full-fledged emulator. And I just found that looking around for Windows Express type things, WinLink Express bit of things for Mac. And so it seems like Wine in general you can get for free, but so I'll check into that some more. But if anyone had used some variant of Wine to do this, I'd be interested in knowing how that experience turned out.
I've used Wine with other, not with the Mac, but with Linux boxes. So it works fairly well as long as the application is supported. So something like this might be a little bit more of an edge case, but it may work or it may not. Unfortunately, with Wine, there's kind of a lot of things that have to happen. And you've got an Intel Mac, like not one of the newer M1s, right?
I have a collection of various vintages of so. And one thing, again, I'll look some more, but it seemed like it was a ham site about doing WinLink type things that somebody had some. So whether their particular Wine bottles, I guess this honey able for things actually works well or not. So, but it sounds like you might be a good person to check with. Is it me or is it their Wine bottles causing trouble?
Yeah, wine can get a little complicated. It's gotten much easier lately, but you know, if you want to shoot me an email or whatever, that's fine. I'll do whatever I can to help out. I just don't have a Mac, but I can maybe see what you're seeing and maybe help out.
Bob, you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say I did see that Scott posted something in there that might be the same site that you were looking at. That's it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember whether it went through Crossover or not. So I think I'd need to click on that and look at it and go, yeah, I think it's the same site I found or another version of that. Because I think the one I was looking at had not written that. They were talking about using something someone else developed. So I'll make that part of my homework.
Okay, I think Bob had his hand up next, and then Bruce, and then Patrick.
Yeah, so what I'm looking for is I've already got a portable WinLink system. And what I'm really looking for is a portable WinLink system that just runs on 12 volts. Now, I do know indeed that some laptops you can buy a power supply that will convert 12 volts up to 19.5, so you can run your laptop. But I was wanting to do is go with a really low power system. So I had bought a Raspberry Pi 4 bought a small 7-inch monitor and a small keyboard and stuff like that. I wanted to put it in a suitcase so it would just run on 12 volts and not have to deal with sucking a lot of power. Is the Raspberry Pi running Linux? Is that going to either be Wine or is that going to be Pat?
Most likely it's going to be, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this is John. I use Pat. There's a thing you can call Build-A-Pi that installs tons of ham radio programs onto a Pi.
Okay.
I would recommend that.
And it does work with Pad. So I actually have that experimented with that. That does work. That's set up fairly reasonably. You can also look the pack link stuff, which runs also on your Raspberry Pi, and you can connect your regular email client to it. So it's basically a mail server on the front end and WinLink on the back end. Allows you to also send emails from your cell phone then, so you can be.
Okay, real good. Thanks, guys.
I think was who's next? Bruce. Bruce. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, how does the SignalLink box get its power?
Via the USB cable to your computer.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Patrick.
So I'm interested in doing this through HF, and I think Stefan must have done that to talk to Ba. And so how do you set that up for HF connection? And obviously, once it gets through the RMS to the server, it doesn't matter how the other person receives that message, right? They could just access a local RMS to retrieve that message. Or is that for next week or something? I can wait. No worries.
Yeah, as far as the HF setup, I'm using what's already at the EOC, which has already been what is it using?
Set up.
Pactor, I think. So it's using a Pactor modem, but I haven't done HF at home yet, and I've so I'm kind of bootstrapping that effort with this class. So I'm going to see if I can get that going.
Yeah. Okay. My concern was that if our local repeaters go down, including BJ, then we obviously have to go farther than what VHF or UHF can do.
Yeah.
The base
right.
station. So.
As far as the furthest I've tried is Marina with their VHF, but I don't know if there's anything else around the corner in Salinas or something that I might be able to get to. I don't know. To try those out.
Nothing.
We also do not have one of those hybrid RMS nodes in Santa Cruz County at this stage.
Okay.
Don, I think you're next, unless Patrick is not done. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. I just wanted to, I know that Bob had talked about basically trying to power. Oh, this is going to work. This is going to work wonderfully. This is a device that I got. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's basically called a OmniCharge, and it's a smaller battery. I mean, it's pretty big for this size, but it can output anywhere from 12 to 24 watt or 24 volts through a barrel connector, and it also has a AC connection on the back. The AC, of course, you're going to have some overhead, and it's going to basically lower the amount of time you're going to have with it. But I've found for powering like low power laptops, like I have a Surface Go, which is like super low power, it'll last for quite some time. So just another option for the low power thing. I didn't have it in front of me, or else I would have talked about it when Bob was talking. So that's it for me.
Let's see, Patrick, you still have your hand up, or you have something else? Bob, you have your hand up.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make one more point that came to my mind is we were talking about the signal link, if it powers up by USB. I have heard that you need to make sure you've got enough power to drive that because if you use some hubs that do not have power, then you're not going to have enough power to drive that relay that's inside of it. So just a caution to everybody, if you're using an unpowered hub, you may have an issue. So I just want, and I want, will others please verify that?
As I recall, Signal Link on their website says don't use a hub. There are other potential issues with a hub as well.
I only use my first port of my USB for all my cables for everything. That's the only port. If I have to go out without a keyboard or without a mouse, I can do that, but that port is dedicated to my Signal Link or my Cantronics or whatever cable I'm using for packet.
One other thing occurred to me. We've been talking a lot about using Signal Link because most radios do not have an internal TNC, but a few of them do. One of Roberta's radios does, for example. And if your radio already has an internal TNC, you can get by without a Signal Link and probably be even happier. But we won't be, and work with your Elmer on that, but we won't be going over that very much in the class because we're trying to stick with a reasonably lowest common denominator of equipment, which is a Windows laptop, a Signal Link, and the radio of your choice. Are there any other questions or comments? You know your homework. If you haven't done it already, get Telnet working with WinLink Express and send and receive some messages. All right. There's one other comment I was going to make, and it has to do with current events. There were some items in the news recently about the Ukrainian situation. There is a group of Polish hams who have been setting up communication for refugees using WinLink. And it's a very serious situation, as we all know, and it's a very one more reason to be able to use WinLink, I guess. So that's pretty much it. Anything else? All right, well, with that, I'm going to stop recording and declare the session at an end.